Hello, welcome. Hopefully this video will help any of you who need to inflate a bike tire. Let's jump right into it. There's several different types of pumps to use. Pumps like a handheld version, types like a floor pump, which is that type you see kind of like that, and then my personal favorite is using some kind of air compressor device. And there are different types of attachments you can put on an air compressor hose. This is the one I really like using. Now the first step when inflating your bike tire, of course, is taking off the cap. It's easy to lose these. And once the cap's off, it's important to make sure there's a good seal between the pump and the valve. So first, to explain different valve types, the most classic one you'll see, and the one I'll be filling up today, is a Schrader valve. More of a common valve that you'll see on a lot of cars and bikes. Now another valve type which you might see on maybe a little higher quality bikes is called a Presta valve. Now I just want to demonstrate on the Presta valve. Once it's like this, the cap is off, you unscrew this little piece, and when there's air, you can push down and it'll let air out. And you put it back like this to tighten it up, get it ready to go. Now, if you have a Presta and Schrader valve compatible pump, you just put the pump on top of either one and it will be good to go. Now that we know the different valve types, it is important to note if your pump is compatible with both, depending on the one you have. But anyway, now that we have that covered, we need to make sure there's a good seal on the valve. Now, on most any pump you'll see is a kind of headpiece like this, where the valve goes in, and then a lever in the back to lock it in place once you have it on. So I'll show you here. I'm going to fit it in the hole and then pull that lever back, which, as you can see, you can even give it a nice tug and you'll notice it's on there tight and you know that it's on correctly. Now before I begin inflating my tire, it's important to know how much to inflate your tire. On most bikes, you can look along the edge of the tire and it will give you information. Like here, it tells me about the tire and that I'm going to be inflating it to 60 psi. And different bikes and different tires and tubes vary. And if you can't find a place where the tire will tell you the PSI it needs to get to, you can always Google it and get a good idea of where you need to be. So anyway, now that we've got a tight seal on the valve, if I have the hand pump, I begin pumping. If you have the floor pump, begin pumping, and with the air compressor, it's a lot easier. Okay, it's at 60 psi. Now I'll remove the inflator here by returning the lever back to its down position, pulling off. You will hear a little air escape when you do this, but it's really not the biggest deal. Now you might be wondering, well, Quinn, on your device, it tells you what the PSI is at. How am I supposed to know with a pump that doesn't tell me? Well, that's the next step. There's many different handy tools and devices to measure air pressure. This one we've used for cars before, and like I was saying, the Schrader valves, cars, bikes, it's the same type of thing. So I'm going to walk over here with this. It's pretty obvious where the valve goes, and I just push it up for a second or two. So as you can see, it extended this end here, and the air pressure goes in and pulls out the measuring tool here, showing me that I'm at the right PSI. Now, if you have a handheld or a different pump that doesn't tell you right away, it can get a little tedious, you know, putting it on, pulling it, pumping for a while, taking it off, measuring, knowing where you are, and doing that process again. But it doesn't take too long, and it's always good to make sure you're at not too low PSI. Sometimes it's a bit of a disaster when you hit the trail and hit the road and your bike tire is flat. So always take the time to make sure the pressure is adequate. Now, a few finishing tips and tricks. It's always nice when you're inflating your tire, especially if the tire is deflated enough that there's no seal around the edge anymore. It's always good to hear little popping noises. That's just the tire seating on the rim. So don't be alarmed. You hear that kind of popping sound. That's a good thing. And don't be alarmed if you don't hear it, because with a smaller tool that only lets in smaller amounts of air in at a time, sometimes that gradual inflation, you won't hear that seating popping sound as often. Oh, I love to give my tire a good squeeze. That's how you know it's right. Return the cap. And you're ready to ride. Thank you for watching.